Dr. Alex Straley. If you're looking to optimize movement to decrease daily aches and pains, as well as improve performance, you've come to the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe and notification bell so you know each time a new video is uploaded. In the last video, we looked at exercises in the lower developmental posture. Let's take a look at those in the kneeling and standing. Make sure you stick around to the end so you can see that one thing you can do to build that optimal strength and stability of your core. So the first exercise we're going to get into is called chops and lifts. Now, a lift is just the opposite of a chop, so right here we're going to show the chop first. With a chop, you're going to have a split stance with your inside leg forward, and I like to bias extension, so I'm really letting this down hand do more of the work versus my overhand. So from here, you're going to twist your body and bring it down towards your other pocket and back up. So as you're bringing it down, you're working concentrically to strengthen your muscles. As you control the weight back to a starting position, that takes a lot of stability to not let the weight just fly up. And then the end position can give you a little stretch for more mobility. So with the lift, you're going to move your cables down to the very bottom. You can also do this with a TheraBand by tying a knot in it and throwing it into the door. If you don't have any TheraBand, which let's be honest, most people don't, there's a link down in the description where you can go get some. They're super versatile and I highly recommend having some at home. With the lift, again, I want a bias extension. So my backhand, or the hand with the palm facing me, is going to be doing most of the work. You're going to go down from your pocket and then up top. With both the chop and the lift, I highly recommend letting your eyes follow your hands and getting a good rotation throughout your body. Remember back to the last video, it's extremely important to be able to master rotational movements such as rolling or chops and lifts. So the next group of exercises we're going to look at are suitcase carries, farmer's carries, and lunges. Now let's start with suitcase carries. This is one of my favorite core exercises of all time. I think it does a fantastic job at picking out side-to-side differences. Now if you're sitting in a chair all day, it's likely that you find yourself leaning over one way or another. And when you do a suitcase carry, so holding the weight only in one hand, it's really going to pick out that asymmetry. So if I have the weight in my right hand, it's going to be stressing the left side of my lateral core in order to stay stable. So when I do this, I love having a mirror in front of me so I can see how much I'm swaying. I also like to do this walking forward and backwards because there can often be a big difference with the two. With this one, it's super important to walk slowly. When you walk faster, your body is actually able to compensate, which makes the movement easier. And we're not going for easy here. We want this to be challenging. Now here I'm only using 35 pounds, so you don't need a super heavy weight. Now farmer's carries when you're holding the weight on both arms. This is great for activating that QL, which is a quadratus lumborum, which is important for hip flexion. Now if you're a sprinter or do anything athletic where you need to run, this is super important to be able to train. If you're not an athlete, you still need hip flexion in order to ambulate stairs or step over your puppy who's running underneath your feet. Now the last movement here is a lunge, and when you do a lunge with the weight in one hand, you really bring a lot of things together. So it's a suitcase carry, and the fact that you're stressing your lateral core opposite of that weight. The lunge also highly activates your glute muscles. Additionally, you want to keep your body upright so your anterior and posterior core have to maintain that stiffness as well. A one-handed lunge is a fantastic core exercise. Before we get into the last three exercises, go ahead and like this video and leave a comment. That lets YouTube know that you enjoyed what you're watching and it'll show it to more people. Let me know which of the exercises from the last video was your favorite, or type in core is king. The next group of exercises we're going to look at are squat walkouts. Now there's three different ways you can do this. First way is an overload walkout, second way is an uneven, and then the third is a dynamic walkout. With an overload walkout, try doing 110% of your max onto the bar. From here you're going to brace and walk out. Try to hold it for a few seconds and then walk back into the rack. Bracing your core when you're squatting is extremely important, especially if you want to have a strong squat. However, I see many lifters do this incorrectly. At the last powerlifting meet I was at, over 80% of the lifters did it wrong. If you have an idea of what I'm talking about, let me know down in the comments. And if you have no idea, let me know that too and I can make a video on it. Now I don't utilize the overload walkout too often. I think it has a lot of utility, especially when you're peaking. With an uneven walkout, you don't need a big difference. Here I only have a 10 kilo or 22 pound difference and I could definitely feel it. With an uneven walkout, you're going to be really conscious of your foot movement and making sure that you stay balanced the whole time. Now with a dynamic walkout, there's two different ways you can do this. The first way is getting a bamboo and earthquake bar. There's a link down in the description where you can find those. They're a specialty bar made exactly for this. Now if you don't have a home gym or the funds to afford that, you can also do this by just tying a weight to the barbell. Simply wrap the TheraBand around the bar and the weight. A kettlebell works amazing for this. You want to make sure your TheraBand is strong enough that the kettlebell doesn't sit at the max range the entire time, but also light enough that it has some bounce to it. The next exercise we're going to look at is a Romanian deadlift, also known as an RDL or a hip hinge. To really visualize this movement, let's think about a door. You have the door, you have the hinge, and you have a wall. Neither the door nor the wall bend at all, but they rotate around with a hinge. Now let's take this into the human. You have your torso, you have your hips, and you have your legs. Your torso is the door, the legs are the wall, and your hips are the hinge. When you do an RDL, you just want to move around your hips. What you want to do is brace your core, push your hips back, and let your knees bend slightly. When you feel a nice stretch in your hamstrings, engage your glutes and push them forward, making making you stand up. Now, one common thing I see with this is people hyperextend their low back in order to get that core stability. You want to keep your core nice and neutral, which should have some extension but not be hyperextended. Remember, we want our muscles and our ligaments to provide the stability, not the bones. The last group of exercises we want to look at is anything. Yes, literally anything that requires you to move your arms or legs and keep a steady torso is a core exercise. Core, 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 core. Even that works your core. Now, all the other exercises we have talked about are great at focusing on the core. However, any other exercise you do where you're moving your arms or moving your legs, you should keep your core steady. So why did I make 4 videos if everything can be a core exercise? Well, sometimes your core is the weak part of that exercise, so we need to take a step back and do these core focused exercises so you can properly progress the bigger movements. Just like in a squat, you may have really strong quads, but your glutes are holding you back, so you need to do some glute focused exercises. Same goes with the core. If you feel like your core is holding you back, or the ratios we looked at in the second video are off, it's going to be important to address those asymmetries. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when the 5th video is posted. I'm going to review the research on the McGill Big 3 to see is it actually effective. Thanks for subscribing, liking, and commenting, and I'll see you on the next one.